Grace in means grace out. Grace and peace, everybody. Welcome to Sabbath School Study Group. Looking at covenantal love, looking in the eyes of God, in the face of Jesus, seeing what grace means and how it's based on the promise God has made to us, not us to him. We simply have to choose to receive it or reject it. So let's talk about giving now. We've talked about him giving, but once we've received, what should actually happen? Well, if grace has come in, it's grace that should be coming out. Before we dig in, we want to thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you liking this video if it's a blessing and passing it on to at least one person. Then you can go to the website as well. On top of that, that's at changeministry.org. And we would love to be where you are, your school, your church, your group, face to face. And remember, we're willing to come on our own expense. We're counting on you to give us the opportunity. That email address is contact@changeministry.org. GIGO is a term that I remember my father referring to as a child growing up. He was a systems engineer. And I remember him introducing that term to me, the idea of whatever you put into something, that's actually what comes out. To the Hindu, they may call that karma. Not long ago, our daughter asked us what karma is, and she had heard it. And we had to explain to her that we as Christians, we don't believe in karma. Karma is simply trying to piggyback off of the biblical principle of what is sown, that's what is reaped. So if God is sowing grace into us, if he's putting grace into us and covering us, then it stands to reason in that what should come out, what we have received, is that grace, that forgiveness, that love. It's why he says in John 15:12, this is my commandment, that ye love one another. But what's the metric or what's the standard for that? As I have loved you. Now that's powerful because Jesus says, this is my commandment. This is not a suggestion. If you have taken full advantage, if you've gone both hands on the horns and said, I'm all in, I'm claiming the grace of God, then that should be the only thing that you're giving out. And it's why he calls it a commandment. But beyond a commandment, 1 John chapter 3, verse 16 says, hereby perceive we the love of God. It's how we understand this commandment because he laid down his life for us. And notice the and we ought to lay down our lives for the brethren. It's as if there's this divine domino effect. God is the first domino to drop. But if the domino, in order for that domino thing to work, it pushes us all the way down. And what happens is in our going down, we push the next domino down and so forth and so on. So he is the beginner, but he's certainly not the end. We're the continuation, the extension of what we understand. So in the same way, if God lays down his life for us, we lay down our lives for one another. So with this domino effect, it's easy to see in 1 John chapter 4, verse 11, beloved, if God so loved us, we ought also to love one another. You notice how the verse is a little bit shorter. It's a little bit more succinct. And what it's really doing is saying the obvious based on what was said previously, that obviously, if God has loved us this way, when we're thinking about loving others, how can I love somebody differently than the way that I've been loved? If I opt out to change that up, I'm no longer reflecting. Remember how reflections work. I'm reflecting the beam as it shines on me. I'm not creating the light, but I'm also not altering that light. And that's why I love the word reflecting. That means we don't create the light, we reflect. So if you're having a hard time reflecting, we don't have to worry about whether or not God is shining. What it probably means is that our surface gets a little dusty, sometimes with selfishness, pride, and the big one is fear. We let the blood of Christ clean that surface and ask God to clean our hearts so that we can reflect what he is freely given.